ancient human activity.
I think it's really important.
Wow.
Because people don't really understand the first time people encountered the sea. They don't really understand what they did when they got there.
No.
And this is some of the earliest evidence that there is for early modern humans settling in the coastal environment.
Lucy is hoping to find clues preserved here about the first encounters our ancient ancestors had with the Red Sea.
I'm really finding it fascinating. It's like a big jigsaw. You've got all these little pieces that, well, not many of them actually, to put into the puzzle. And no, I'm also interested in the nature of the finds, because they're very different from what you find on most archaeological sites. You haven't got ceramics, you haven't got building remains. You know, it's a very, very different type of site.
The hostilities may be over, but this is still very much a military zone, and access is heavily restricted. Soldiers watch their every move.
Wow, there's a lot of military bases there, aren't there?
All of that is the military encampment. Pretty good guns up on top there, Lucy.
It's a bit of waving. Let's do some waving back. That's always a good thing.
Normally, they'd have to dive down to the seabed to look for clues, but here, the sea floor has come to them. Over thousands of years, earthquakes have raised up the ancient coral reef by 10 meters. With it, a slice of history that's 125,000 years old has been pushed into daylight.
This is all old coral. I mean, look at some of this. If there's any doubt at all about whether that's coral or not, you know.
Buried in this ancient coral, they're hoping to find evidence of early modern human activity.
What we need is some sort of, maybe just chuck a load of water onto it.
Hey, Lucy,
Yeah?
look at that. Look at that
Oh,
bit.
yeah, that's more like it.
That's got to be. Look,
You've really got that's fantastic.
look at that.
Oh, that's
Give it a
beautiful.
spray.
Yeah. Look. That's what
And
we're
this is
looking
sharp.
for. Yes.
It's an ancient hand blade.
See the
That can take skin off, no problem. Look
Yeah,
at
well,
that.
be careful though, because you
Okay.
can. I mean, and that's part of the reason that we can tell it's not been moved, you know, by water action or the
Yeah.
sea. It's actually deposited here in its original context because it's still pretty sharp.
See, hard, but if you hold it that way, it doesn't
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
quite
yeah,
right.
but that's probably.
Hold it this way. See, that's curving down,
Yeah.
and this is curving up.
Yeah.
So depending on what you were going to do with it,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
you know, because look at that, that shape. That is a proper beautiful
That's
tool.
beautiful.
This type of tool, made from volcanic glass called obsidian, dates from the Middle Paleolithic period.
There's no other obsidian here, so it must have come here through some sort of human action.
So early modern humans were definitely here. But is there evidence of their relationship with the sea?
I think that's maybe what we've been looking for.
Yeah.
They've found what appears to be an ancient oyster bar.
Imagine if you're shucking all these oysters,
Yeah.
getting all the meat out of these oysters. I mean, look how well that fits in. You know, just.
That is cool,
I
actually.
mean, it just fits perfect, doesn't it?
So you can just imagine this whole area where people have come, they've collected the shells, they've processed them, they've eaten them, and then they've just thrown them on the floor. And I think it's just fantastic. You can see it in such a distinct horizon.
Early modern humans were probably driven from the central plains of Africa by drought. They would have stumbled across the Red Sea in their search for food and water.
It's very significant in a lot of ways because it shows one of the first, if not the first, bits of evidence that we have for human interaction with the sea here on the Red Sea.
It's a really exciting feeling to hold some tools. And the last man to use this was 125,000 years ago.
These tools show how our ancestors learned to exploit the Red Sea. For the first time, they had a food source that didn't rely on the climate. And when sea levels dropped, these thriving coastal people had the opportunity to cross this narrow sea out of Africa and eventually populate the entire world.
The Red Sea has always been a critical point of communication and trade and transportation, but I hadn't, until today, appreciated, you know, how incredibly early that communication and contact with the sea started. It just gives it such depth.
That's the past. But it's what the Red Sea could tell us about the future of our oceans that's brought environmentalist Philippe Cousteau here. Particularly his concern for coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea.
Probably one of the most critical issues that ocean conservation is facing over the next decade or so is the loss of coral reefs.
Coral is vital to the health of the ocean, harboring a huge diversity of life. But rising sea temperatures across the world are causing much of it to suffer from bleaching, to turn white and die.
Of all the coral reefs in the world, we've lost about 25%, are gone. Another 25% are heavily threatened, and we fear will be gone within the next 50 years or so.
The Red Sea is the perfect place to study the impact of warming seas. Water temperatures here are among the hottest on Earth, reaching 34 degrees centigrade.
We've got the monitor right here, and we're going to submerge it maybe 10 meters underwater, about 30 feet. Just off.
It's winter now, and Philippe wants to find out what the corals are dealing with.
The temperature is reading 27.8 degrees Celsius, so almost 28 degrees Celsius. That is too warm. That's just not an optimal temperature range. You know, it's winter time. Winter, I don't like to see this at all, so I'm a little concerned about what's going to be going on down there.
Joining Philippe is Eritrean marine scientist Jonathan Bokra, one of the few people to have spent any time on these reefs.
I know basically, the coral types here, so this is a great opportunity for me.
Jonathan thinks there's something surprising about this coral, and the team is now keen to investigate.
I've been dreaming of getting into the Red Sea all my life, so the chance to do so now is pretty spectacular. And then to be able to do it here in Eritrea, where few people have ever dived before, let alone filmed before, is probably one of the most exciting dives of my life.
With such high winter temperatures, there could be a lot of bleached coral.
I can feel the water. I almost don't need a wetsuit, it's so warm. It is looking pretty beautiful. What a relief.
Astonishingly, the coral is far from dead. It's flourishing.
I'm so amazed at how healthy this coral looks. In all my experience, this coral should not be thriving the way it is. And you see all the fish swimming in the water column. I mean, that's the symbol of a healthy reef.
The first thing we need to do is to see what's down here and where it is. It's just so full of stuff here. It's really hard to do this because everything's overlapping. It's so dense and so rich, it's actually quite difficult to map.
Coral reefs are the life support system of our oceans. Without them, a quarter of all known fish species would be under threat. There are small patches of bleached coral here, but according to Eritrean scientist Jonathan Bokra, even these damaged corals recover faster than you'd expect.
What is so unique about these corals is that even in the extremely high water temperature, they manage to survive.
Anywhere else in the world, these conditions would spell disaster for the corals.